I spent the last 2 weeks building the cheapest CNC I could find on Amazon and trying to make it repeatable enough so that I could get it to make a two-sided part. And honestly, this thing surprised me because in some ways, it's actually a really good teacher. It forces you to learn about the machine because you have to build it from scratch. It'll teach you zeroing, work holding, and CNC workflow from CAD, CAM, and then actually getting it to run on the CNC. But it also falls short in a huge way because some of the habits that this machine will teach you will absolutely hold you back once you get a bigger and better machine. Like having to take tiny little scratch cuts and running the spindle at max speed all the time. It just doesn't have enough rigidity and torque to be a everyday use machine. So in this video, I'm going to go through the building of it. We'll look at the software that comes with it, as well as the sketchy thumb drive. We'll design a very simple part in Fusion to get it calibrated and learn how it cuts. Then we'll make a real part with two-sided cuts and we'll see how accurate it really is. And where I almost got to completely fall apart. Make sure you subscribe so we can see an upgrade path for this and a ton of other CNC and Fusion 360 tutorials. Let's get building. I opened the box and was really expecting a complete disaster. A lot of parts that I didn't know where the hell they went, a lot of screws, and a lot of things that just didn't make sense in the directions. But realistically, there really weren't that many parts. They were labeled poorly, but a lot of common sense and looking at the pictures, you can really figure out what screws you're going to need. But this thing is basically a $126 erector set. And once you get it together, you have a fully functioning, a bit loose, but a fully functioning CNC machine. And I think the most important part of it is that you have to put it together yourself. You get to see how the anti-backlash nut works, what a lead screw does, and then you also get to feel how the machine might be a little bit floppy. The one big thing I did learn is that not all T-nuts have to slide in nicely and then screw them in. You can actually start them on the screw and then just put them in. I wish I saw that in the first place. It would have made my life a little bit easier, but here we are. So now that the machine is made, we're going to plug in this sketchy drive that comes with it. Now, I don't know about you, but I absolutely trust it. So I plugged it right into my computer. At first, I couldn't actually get anything to work. So what I had to do was copy and paste the folder to my desktop. I installed the driver, follow the directions, and it tells you to go to your device manager, find the COM port or the USB port that your tool is plugged into, open Candle, which is the control software we'll be using for this, and put it into the settings. Press OK. And just like that, you power it on and you have a working CNC machine. You can use these buttons to jog and change what the distance you want it to travel is. Now, I kind of took this as good enough. I'm not going to use the software long term. So I'm going to just trust that this software is already calibrated for this machine. And luckily, it was. I didn't have to dive too deep into it. So now starting with the actual workflow, we're going to be using Fusion 360, and I'm going to just be doing a very, very simple part. It's going to be a 1-inch circle and a 1-inch square. Most people don't know this, but you don't actually have to make an entire part in Fusion 360. You can work directly off of drawings, and that's what I'm doing. So I made my sketches, my circle, my square. I made them 1 inch, and I went right into the manufacturing tab. For this one, I'm just doing a profile cut just to try it out. And with an 1/8 inch bit, I'll typically go an 1/8 inch deep. I wasn't really sure what this machine was capable of, and I just kind of hoped it was limited with how fast it can actually cut. I went through, I made my programs, and I just pressed OK. Took it to the machine, and what a disaster that was. It made an oval that was cut out quite janky. It doesn't get more janky than this, but it did make it through, shockingly. But you can even see the spindle flexing, or actually the entire Z-axis flexing and then finding its way back. It's like the worst case of chatter possible. And that's why it's so funky looking. So I went back into Fusion and I simply edited the toolpath and made it half the distance. So a 1/16 of an inch deep. ran it again, and it was better, but it was still pretty awful. It wasn't even close to the dimension I needed, and the square has these big old loops around the sides. So I went nuclear, trying it one more time, and I told it to just go 1/2 millimeter deep. So basically 4 pieces of paper per pass. And I needed to go a full 1/4 inch. It took longer than you would really want any CNC to take, but I really wanted to see if this thing could cut accurately. And to my surprise, it did an awesome job. Like I said, I wasn't able to take a very deep cut, and it took a little bit more time than I wanted, but I finally found a setting that I was happy with, which was a paper thin cut and also maxing spindle speed. Two things you probably don't want to do on any other machine. Now that we know what this machine is capable of and the parameters that we can use, we're back in Fusion 360 to design this clean dirty puck. Now there's magnets hidden on the inside, and I need a way to align it so I can flip it on the CNC. I designed the registration holes directly into the stock. But there are going to be a lot of operations. We need to put the holes in the spoil board. We need to put the registration holes and the magnet holes into our stock. We need to flip it, do a 90-degree V-carve on both pieces, and then we need to cut out both pieces. So this is really going to test the machine's limits. Not only can it cut it out half decently where sanding it will be able to finish it up, but can it hold its position? These stepper motors are not very big, and I had very little hope that they would be able to actually go through these 7 operations and still have a nice part. So I went through and I did it. I put the holes on the spoil board in both pieces of stock, the maple and the walnut. And then I got to the flip, which I just used some steel pins because, well, it was all I had and I made 1/4 inch holes. So I made it work. And then I removed them just to make sure this thing didn't crash. Felt like if it crashed into a steel pin, it would just have completely exploded. Now, I didn't have a 90 V-bit that would fit in this 1/8 inch collet. So what I did was used my 1/4 inch collet for my bigger CNC back here, my 6090 Chinese CNC. And I put it in with an Amana bit. Now this thing basically started to vibrate itself apart, and I was very scared. So I just kept on going, but I finished the cut, and luckily it came out okay. But I didn't want to do that again. So I used a smaller Yanico 90-degree bit, and I did the second side. And shockingly, it came out pretty nice. But the final test to see if we actually lost any steps and if the machine stayed true was to cut it out. So I put the 1/8 inch bit back in, I used the paper method to zero it, and I let it rip. I did that on both pieces. And to my surprise, the thing came out just about perfectly. I put them together, did some sanding and some finishing, and was really happy with the final results. So I was able to make a complicated 7 operation part. If you want the design files for this dirty, clean dishwasher puck, I'll make sure I leave a link in the description. But would I recommend it for woodworkers? Absolutely not. At some point, this thing's gonna fail on me. Probably very quickly. These stepper motors are not robust. This spindle is absolutely tiny. And everything takes way too long. I need something that is gonna cut much faster if I'm a woodworker, and also something that I know will be more reliable.